Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, y'all? It's me doing this once again. I know it's a bit late, but see what I can do to squeeze in at this time. Let me check everything. My sound levels are okay. This, that, and the third. Let's see. Make sure some people can come in the chat. Let me check some things out here. Anyways, let's see if I can get everything right. Let's see. All right. Okay, y'all. So let me say shout out to Ronda Rousey. She is the new WWE Women's Champion and Raw's Women's Champion. She squashed Alexa Bliss, and that's something I didn't expect, but it is what it is. I thought they were going to at least put the title on her until WrestleMania next year, but it is. Of course, the big dog Roman Reigns defeats Brock Lesnar finally. Well, at the 100th time that he's tried to beat him, he gets the world title. What's going on, Kiwi? Yeah, doing good, man. Thought I'd just come on here for a second. We might have to chop it up a little bit if you're up for it, man. Talk about the heavyweights. As you can see in the comment section, is all about the heavyweights right now. I mean, the title of this hangout, I should say. Anyhow, we'll see what WWE do with Ronda Rousey and her title run. I don't know. I mean, sure, she'll probably be dominating a lot of the women rosters. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, I want to talk about a few things here. I know there is some bit of a uproar about the new no venue, no date situation. No venue, no date for the Fury and Wilder fight that's supposed to go down. That is officially going down, I should say, in Vegas. Okay. Now, first things first, let me clear something up on that. Yeah, I'm definitely going to give you my assessment on that one, Kiwi. Trust me, I will get on that one in a second. And I'm going to be brutally honest about it, too. Now, as far as this whole situation about no date, no venue not being announced yet, now a lot of people are using that against this. It's a bit of a bit of hypocrisy or double standard on the on Wilder's team on this situation because the date and venue was one of the reasons why they signed that quote unquote contract with AJ to have that fight secured in the UK and Wembley. Now that was not the only part of the that was not the only reason why they didn't sign that particular contract or Wilder's team by that matter. When people tend to neglect is that the core reason why they didn't sign that contract was because of the fact that they were not getting a rematch clause. That was their biggest grief about that. They weren't getting a rematch clause. All Shelly Finkel and Finkel. All Shelly Finkel wanted Eddie Hearn to do is adjust the terms to where they can get a rematch clause. And then all of a sudden, the WBA call for the Povetkin and Joshua fight to be made. So that's where people who are making this uproar about that tend to forget now. Okay. Now, as far as the date, I know Kiwi says November 15th. Actually, it's November 17th. I mean, if you're going to talk about the 15th, that is what day is that? That is November 15th is a Thursday over here. So I would assume it would be a Saturday on your side of the world. I don't know, Kiwi, but I do know it's the 17th here in the States. I said Winkle. I said Finkel. Now everybody gonna use that term Winkle. Shirley Finkel. Shirley Finkel. All right. So here's the deal. The fight, it was initially reported is the 17th. So it's gonna be not exactly at the T-Mobile Arena as it was initially reported. According to some other sources, is actually going to be at the Paradise Arena at the MGM Grand, and it's going to be at the MGM Grand. That's where it's going to be. And the split, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. The split between the two fighters, according to Frank Warren, is going to be 50-50. both fighters will get a rematch clause. So let's go over this right here because he gave an interview with BBC Live Radio about this. And let's see. So it's a 50-50 split down the middle. Now, as far as the revenue is concerned, I don't know. Frank Warren will review those details later this week, I believe. He will do that. So that's what he told BBC Radio. And another thing I wanted to point out is that if we all remember the lead up to the Andre Ward Sergey Kovalev fight. Remember that one, the lead up to that first fight, when Andre Ward signed and Sergey Kovalev has signed a deal where they were guaranteed, or not guaranteed, they would meet at a later date with 2 fights in between. Or they'll get 2 fights in between each other, and they were going to meet at a later date. They actually signed this preliminary deal back. They agreed to this preliminary deal back in 2016, I believe, of December of that year. Okay. After Andre Ward had beaten not Sergey Kovalev, when he beat Alexander Brand, which was the second interim fight at light heavyweight, officially at light heavyweight, we all remember that Sergey Kovalev walked into the ring after that fight. It was in Oakland. And they both shook hands, and Alex Culliman asked, is this fight going to go down? And they both said, yes, absolutely. Okay. Now, as far as the venue and the date was concerned, they didn't. What's up, Doc? Mr. Doc? What's going on, man? As far as the venue and the date was concerned, nobody knew yet. All we knew is that the month was. They knew the month where it's going to take place, but they didn't have the official date. They didn't have the venue set up. They were going to announce that in the. I think it was about 3 days after that fight. They were going to announce that Kathy Dew was going to announce the venue. She was going to announce the venue and the location, et cetera, et cetera. All those details was going to be revealed days after the Brandon Ward fight. Now we all remember that, right? So they didn't immediately announce the fight was going to take place at this date, such and such. When Sergey Kovalev walked in the ring with Andre Ward and shook his hand after the Alexander Brand fight, we all recall that, right? So in this scenario, this is the same thing. So let's not pretend this is not this is abnormal for Frank Warren to come out and say, I will reveal the details for you guys in a couple of days, but I will officially let you know the fight is on. It's official. It's agreed upon. Now, if this fight was not agreed upon, why would Showtime go out their way to promote the fight? Ring the bells? Showtime is all over social media promoting this fight on their pay-per-view. In fact, let me get on that real quickly. Wayne King Chung, what's going on, man? What's going on? Now, let's get on this situation with Showtime pay-per-view, okay? Now, not a situation. I'm not sure if I like the date that early. Good for Wilder, but not for Fury. I want to see both fighters as good as possible. I hear you. But you also have to take into account, Kiwi. Tyson Fury hasn't even taken damage in his last 2 fights. He barely got hit. Once he got hit, he rolled off those shots. He didn't really take those shots on impact, or he never took those shots flushly by either Safiri or Pianetta. So he's pretty much his last 2 fights he left were very unscathing, I should say. He has no cuts, he has no bruises, so he's pretty much left scarless in a way. So I get where you're coming from, but given the fact that he's left scarless in his last 2 fights, then November should be good enough for him to get prepared. Let me see. Now, as far as the pay-per-view is concerned, I did recall something. When was the last time that there was a U.S. pay-per-view fight with the heavyweights featured? I think the last one was back in 2004. Yeah, it was 2004. It was a fight between Vitaly Klitschko versus Danny Williams. I remember that fight being on pay-per-view, and that, it didn't do very well, but it was ironic about that situation. That was an HBO pay-per-view, and they were not Americans. Well, it doesn't really matter, but you get my drift. But the fact is, that was the last time that here in the United States, and that was 14 years ago, that we had featured the heavyweights. A heavyweight bout was featured to be the headliner on a pay-per-view in the United States. So that's something that we got to take into account, and that's how dreadful that the heavyweight ranks were in the U.S. For so many years. No thanks to Klitschko's, but it is what it is. Not their fault, but hey, they did what they had to do. They dominated, so it is what it is. So I thought that was an interesting fact. Let's see. Kiwi says, yeah, he needs more work, in my opinion. Pianetta is slow as hell, so I'm not surprised he couldn't hit Fury. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but let me give you my honest assessment about Tyson Fury, whether he's ready or not for the Deontay Wilder fight. Because I've said this many times, and I strongly really believe, and I don't really, not really, I'm not going to retract it. I still believe this. I believe that he needs at least one more tune up. I really believe he needs one more tune up at least somebody who can give him a little bit more rounds, somebody who has the some bit of the skill set of Wilder, the height and the reach, and so that way he could get a good feel, a sense of what he's going to go up. Was he up against? What he could go up against his in his bout against Wilder, like similar to how Ortiz did with Daniel Marks, but Daniel Marks didn't have the skill. Let's be realistic. He didn't have the athleticism, and he was slow as hell compared to Deontay Wilder. But the fact is that I really think that he needs a one more tune up. As far as him being ready, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. I don't think he's quite ready yet. I know he's regained some of his form from his prime years, but of course that's long and gone. He acknowledges that himself. So, but the fact is that if he feels he's ready, then he's all power to him. He said himself, "Look, if I feel that I'm not ready for the fight, then why would I take it?" So yeah, and I know his last two fights, obviously that Zafiri fight was terrible. There's no other way describing it. His Pianetta fight, yes, it was a lot better than his Zafiri fight. Some argue that he looked a little sluggish. Not quite to me, in my opinion. But the only thing I would say is that his foot speed is a lot slower than it was before. Than it was, many years ago. A lot slower. So he's going to need to somehow, some way, get back some of that fast feet when he's going up against Wilder. So that's going to be a challenge for him. So, but we'll see. We'll see. As months progress, we'll see how well he's well prepared for that fight. We'll see. Cool Japanese boxing is good. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the first week was nothing, but footwork and cardio, it'll drop you or you'll puke. Yeah. All right, let's see. Kaki, what's going on? He says that Frazier beat Ali, the hell out of Ali, for taking 3 tune-ups, and Fury has not improved. Fact, Dan. Well, he has improved. Let's be fair, Aki. He has improved. Now, has he improved to what he used to be 3 years ago? Absolutely not. You can't deny the fact that he has performed a lot better in the Pianetta fight as he did against Zafiri. He started to show the head movement. He started to show some bit of elusiveness. He started to put his punches together, land some good combinations. But the only thing I question is that he wasn't committing to his shots for the most part. I mean, except for a couple instances where he started to commit to a couple of shots, but he wasn't quite, Tyson Fury is known to not really be committing to his power shots, but he did show a lot better movement than he did against Zafiri. Let's be realistic. All right. Now, I'm not saying that he's fully returned to the form that he used to be, but he's still, it's a lot better performance. Again, it's a lot better performance against Pineda than he did against what's his name? Zafiri, the rear deal, cruiserweight, Albano cruiserweight. Anyway, speaking of Ali actually fought 2 or 3 top 10 opponents before he fought Frazier for the undisputed and lineal championship. He fought Oscar Benavides, and he fought who was the other guy he fought? Oscar Benavides, and then he fought, was it Joe Buckner? No, not Joe Buckner. Jerry Corey. There we go. Jerry Corey, which was a dangerous fight comeback against, especially 4 years in incarceration. And those guys are not, Zafiri and Pianetta is nothing compared to those guys. Let's be real. Nothing, not even close remotely. So, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Doc. Exactly. Wayne King says that Fury will not be ready. Yeah, from the looks of it, he says he will be, but we all know Tyson Fury likes to contradict himself a lot. Some are arguing that this is a cash out fight. That's what it is. He's trying to get a payday. And Wilder is too. Frank Warren did reveal it's a 50-50 split. Now, as far as the revenue split, I don't know what that is. So if it is a 50-50 split when it comes to the purses, then I would assume that both fighters are getting between $12 to $15 million guaranteed plus the revenue. So that's what it could be. So they're both probably going to get 15, like again, $12 to $15 million each. Aki says that one athlete with power punching, Fury only slaps. Yeah, but what's so funny about this? I recall that many people who criticizes Wilder for his quote unquote limited skills, whatnot, are now all of a sudden calling him an elite heavyweight only because they're not confident that Tyson Fury could beat him at this point. I find that very strange because prior to that, no one was calling Wilder an elite heavyweight. Well, all of a sudden now, everybody's doing a 180, saying this is a very elite, dangerous heavyweight that Tyson Fury is going up against. Well, it is very evident, but you guys weren't saying that months ago while trashing the man's resume and his, and his skills, whatever skills that he had, or limited skills, but it doesn't matter what it is. And I've always said this, and I'll say this once, and I'll say it again. People need to get off this perception on this myth that boxing is all about skills. No, it's not. It's about whatever skills that you can acquire and how you can use it to your advantage. There have been many great fighters in the past, many great fighters who did not have skill, but they turned out to be great fighters, and they've won many Hall of Fame fights and championships, many of them. So let's all get out of that narrative about it's all about skills when it comes to the sport of boxing. No, it's not. Jesus Christ. Let me see. I do. Okay, Aki. What up, Texan? Mr. Doc says, Dan, what have I always said about Wilder? Mr. Doc, you've been fair about Wilder. I mean, you're not a Wilder fan, but you have always said that the guy's got skill. Not skill. He's got ability. He's a very good fighter, but he does lack the textbook technical skills like AJ or Fury does. So we can all agree on that. But again, it's not always about skill. It's about whatever skills that you have and use it to your advantage. That's what it is, even if it's very limited. So, Mr. Reynolds, what's going on, man? Or M. Reynolds, he says these AJ lovers are trying every trick in the book to discredit the fight. Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. Yeah, Wayne King, just like Ricardo Mayorga, not a very skillful fighter. And let's be real, Deontay Wilder is a much more skillful fighter than Ricardo Mayorga. What does that tell you? Mayorga ran through Vernon Forrest once, bullied him in the second fight, ran through Andrew Lewis, God rest his soul, for both men, Forrest and Lewis. He ran through both of them, okay? Destroyed them. All right, this man didn't have the best skills in the world, but he ran through them. Plain and simple. But I'm going to be honest with you about Mayorga. If he was more disciplined and he took his career very seriously, he could have been a far more dangerous fighter than he was back then, especially at welterweight. But when we moved up in the weights, he lost his focus after the Collier Spinks fight. So he didn't really have no regard for the sport after that, But anyways, as far as AJ Lovers trying to discredit the fight in every trick in the book to do so, again, M. Reynolds, we all recall that when Hearn wanted to sign Tyson Fury to Matchroom, they had no problem with it. They had no problem with Hearn trying to put him in tough fights after his comeback, after him losing all that weight. He wanted his first fight back, he wanted him to fight Tony Bellew. Okay? Then if Fury got past Bellew, then he has to fight Dillian White. If he got past Dillian White, then he gets the Anthony Joshua fight. So he wanted to put two tough men in front of Fury before he gets to Joshua. That's what Eddie Hearn wanted to do. I didn't hear no complaints about that. None whatsoever from those who are criticizing this particular fight. Okay? I mean, as I recall, they had no problem with Anthony Joshua trying to fight Tyson Fury when he made his return. They had no problem with it. But again, it goes back to the fact that the reason why they're upset, they're trying to discredit this fight, is because Wilder is getting a shot at the lineal championship. Okay? This is what this is about. And the fact is that if he beats Fury, not only he captures that lineal title, he gets another name on his resume, and then he can go back to the negotiation table for more leverage when it comes to the split and when it comes to the terms that he feels that he needs for the fight. So that's what they're upset about, and that's what they don't want to see happen, which I'm sorry, it is what it is, man. I mean, Wilder's going after the lineal championship. Well, hey, Fury has a chance to win the WBC title. We'll see if he can pull it off. If he can't, so be it. He tried, okay? So it is what it is. So, you can't, I don't know, man. It's just, let's see. I don't know, man. Let me get into this whole Shannon Briggs comment thing, okay? Shannon Briggs did an interview with IFL TV, okay, with Coogan over there in South Beach, where he lives, South Beach, Florida. So Shannon Briggs said, he was banned from coming to Ireland. That's why we were wondering where is Shannon, because he did, tweet on his Instagram that he purchased his ticket. He was on his way to Ireland. He was going to gate crash the way in, just like Wilder did. He was going to be at the fight, but Frank Warren got in touch with his legal team or his lawyers, his representatives, and informed Shannon Briggs' legal team and to tell Mr. Briggs that don't bother coming, don't waste your revenue or your resources because you're not invited. So Frank Warren banned Briggs for coming, to the event. So that's what happened. And I think the reason, let's be honest here, fish eyes, Shannon Briggs and Frank Warren have a bit of a history for those who don't know in the comment section. So what happened was that Frank Warren wanted to sign Shannon Briggs when he had made his trip over to the UK a couple years back. We all know he made his trip over there. He wanted to get a couple fights in under his belt. He was looking for a promoter. Frank Warren wanted to sign Briggs. And for some reason, somehow, whatever the negotiations were, it fell out. And it fell out in a pretty bad way. And ever since then, Frank Warren has been very, very vindictive against Shannon Briggs. Okay? So it could all go back to the fact that ever since, and Frank Warren is a very vindictive guy. If you cross him, he will find ways to smear you or blackball you. That's how he does it. So that's one of the reasons. And Briggs is coming out talking about Fury's not ready. Don't do it, champ. Don't do it, champ. First of all, you can't be fighting two pies and then get shot. And that's a contradiction on Shannon Briggs right there, because I find that very laughable for him to say that, because this is a man who has been chasing for a year, pop up at restaurants, eating his food, stocking them in oceans. I know some of that I believe was a setup, all staged in my opinion, great gay crashing his press conferences and all that shit. Excuse my language. Shannon Briggs was fighting nothing but goddamn bums. I mean, bums. Guys who were severely overweight, guys with losing records. He was fighting them in clubs. He was fighting them in casinos. I mean, come on, man. Seriously, in resorts. And this guy has the nerve. I recall one interview. I think who interviewed Shannon Briggs? I think it was EJ and Beats. Shannon Briggs, he even flat out refused to fight the top heavyweights. All right. He said himself, I have to take tough fights no more. I deserve a shot at the title because I'm the former lineal champion, two-time champion. This is what Briggs said. So for him to come out and say it can't be two pies and then get a shot, that's what Shannon, with all due respect, brother, let's go champ. That's exactly what you're doing, bro. Fighting pies, hoping you get a title shot, either Wilder, either with Klitschko. Obviously he wanted that lineal shot at David Haye. I'm not David Haye. Wanted to get a shot at David Haye. Wanted to get a shot at Tyson Fury. Look, here's the thing. Shannon's looking for a payday. That's what he's doing. He's looking for one big payday. He knows Fury's a payday. He was trying so hard to lobby Fury to get him to fight and whatnot. And I think that, no disrespect to the Cannon, but that interview was there was a lot of double standards right there on his part. Yeah, you're right, Mr. Doc. You're not wrong, Dan, but I got to point out that the hypocrisy doesn't make Briggs' point incorrect. Yeah, I know. I totally get what he's saying. Yeah, you can't be fighting two subpar oppositions that get a title shot. I totally understand that argument. I totally get that. But the fact is that he is the lineal champion and he hasn't lost his title in the ring, and he has a right to fight who he wants. And, we all know it was very obvious how the WBC ranked this guy after his win over Severi. I was going to do a video on that before all this went, was announced. I said, wait a minute, Tyson Fury gets the number 7th ranking all of a sudden after the Severi win? I was like saying to myself, and I was going to do a video on this. I say, wait a minute, is Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury about to happen? I wish I'd have made that video, because now I'm like, man, maybe I was right, But let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and look at the chat here. Mayorga had them giant boulder hands like Foreman. Yeah, man. Yeah, Mr. Doc, that dude had knuckles the size of freaking mountains, man. His knuckles were huge. Jesus Christ. And he was a heavy-handed dude. His hands were extremely heavy, at that point. But, it is what it is. He had good fights. He had good fights and defeats against Spinks and the first fight against Mosley. Yeah, none of his fights were boring. Let's be realistic. That man always gave entertainment in fights. You know, and the Trinidad fight was actually, I think it was candidate for Fight of the Year that year back in 2004. It wasn't a fight, but Mayorga was as dumb as he was, dropped his hands and let Trinidad hit him, gave him some free shots, especially that big left hook. I think that did him in. He acted like it didn't phase him, but it did take a lot out of him. Of course, it took a lot of work for Felix Trinidad to end him in the 8th round in that fight. So let me see. Hearn Emerald says that Hearn wants everybody to go against his gauntlet fighter so he could cash out every time. Well, from the looks of it, it could be. I just can't let this whole "let's hope this fight don't happen" thing in general. I mean, they don't want the sport to continue to decline. Like I said, Mr. Doc, you and I both know you're a historian. You're a historian. You study the history of the sport. It's about tribalism, man. It's about tribalism. It's about It's about it's about a battle over turf, whatnot. It's tribalism, man. Boxing's been like that for many decades and centuries. It's not going to go away. If it didn't happen back in the old segregation Reconstruction era, it's definitely happening now on social media. All right. Key says that remember Ring Magazine stating that Fury must defend his lineal belt against the top opponent. That's why Fast Eddie offered those options. Well, Key, you're kind of incorrect. Not the lineal championship. Okay. Yes, the Ring Magazine do present a belt to a fighter, recognizing them as their top fighter in that particular organization. Okay, it's their form of the linealship. That is not exactly the lineal title. No. Now, if you want to remain as the Ring Magazine champion, then yeah, you have to defend it against the top 5 opponent every year. You have to. But the lineal championship, let's clear this up about the lineal championship. The lineal championship is not in a belt. Okay, you don't get awarded a belt as a lineal champion. It's just a status as being the recognized, you could say, quote unquote, the legitimate champion of your division. That's what it is. Okay, or other terms, you beat the man who was recognized universally to become that man. That's what Tyson Fury did. All right. Wilson Chu says that people underestimate Fury's ability to adapt to every round and every fight. His style is formless and unpredictable. Yeah, it is unpredictable style. So, he can switch southpaw. He can go, orthodox. So he's very tricky fighter. Especially a big man who can move like a heavyweight. But he ain't moving like a heavyweight these days. Let's not get it twisted. Yep, Fish Eyes will do anything to get over on the Hearns family. Yeah, he did. I want to talk about that Frank Warren. I'll get on that. I'll get on him in a second. If the man said he wasn't ready, if he says he's ready, let him be. I mean, Joshua said he wasn't ready, and people let that ride. Hey, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, man, Reynolds, that's a good point. Brown Gone says, is there a date and a venue for the Wilder and Fury fight? Yes, Brown Gone. There's a date, November 17th. That's what's being reported, and the venue is supposed to be at the MGM Grand in Paradise, Nevada, which is a part of Las Vegas. So that's the venue, that's the date. So we're supposed to get that officially announced by Monday, I think, by tomorrow. Mr. Doc says, I don't get why people worry too much about being a lineal or not. Not all lineal reigns are good reigns, and Fury's lineal reign has clearly been historically terrible so far. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Doc, and I will say this too, and I might get a little flack for saying this. Just because you're the lineal champion does not mean you're exactly the best guy in that division. You have to make something of that lineal championship, and what I mean by that is that you have to defend that title, that status against all comers that comes your way. That's all the prime, all comers basically. You have to defend against all comers. If you make something out of it, if you make it significant, then you can say, okay, my lineal status means that I am the best of my division. I am the guy. I am that top guy. That's what it is. Okay. And there's been many terrible lineal, like like Carlos Baldomir. He was one-time lineal champion. Welterweight. That was not a good run that he had as a lineal champion. Stevie Little, when he beat Michael Nunn, I mean, he beat him for this lineal super middleweight title, lost in his first defense. Brian Mitchell, Super middleweight lineal champion. Brian Mitchell was an okay fighter, but at the end he didn't prove out to be great. He had a few defenses here and there. So there have been some fighters who gain lineal status but have not had great lineal runs. So that's a good point, Mr. Doc. Let's see. I'm not an historian, but I'm just an old fan. It's all good, man. It's all good. Wawa says Briggs out here being the Takashi 6ix9ine of boxing. Yeah, I mean Briggs needs to, like I said, he's looking for one big payday. That's what he's trying to do, man. He ain't trying to fight these top guys at heavyweight. He's looking at money makers like Joshua. He's looking at Fury. I'm not sure if he's looking at Wilder again, but we'll see. Oh yeah, Michael Speaks lineal high heavyweight run. Oh yeah, sure. Yes, Michael Speaks beat Larry Holmes for that title. I get it. He beat him twice, but then he only defended him once against a Eastern European fighter that no one's ever heard of. I mean, come on, that was dreadful. Then he fought Jerry Cooney as well. He defended it twice once against Cooney and once against that guy. I can't even pronounce that Eastern European guy's name, but yeah, that was not really a heavyweight run by Michael Speaks. A great fighter that he was, great late light heavyweight champion, one of the greatest of all time. But yeah, that lineal heavyweight run was not great. Let's be real. Let me see. The fans know who the real champ is, right? Well, we all know that. Okay, here's the thing. Even though you are the lineal champion, that does not. Again, I have to repeat myself. Stefan Trescott. There you go. Tankstad. There you go. That's the guy's name. Stefan Tankstad. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Anthony Joshua is the unified heavyweight champion. Okay. Say this, and I might get a little flack for saying this. Even if Wilder beats Tyson Fury, right? Even if he beats him, as far as him being the best in that division, I know it's going to be up for debate, but I still will edge it towards Joshua. And the reason why I say it, in all fairness to Wilder, he's going to, with the win over Fury, is going to inch him closer to his, to the resume comparison against Joshua. But I'm still going to say Joshua is the best heavyweight in that division because Joshua has defended his title against more top 10 opponents than Wilder has. That's a fact. That's a fact. And I'm being honest, and I'm a Deontay Wilder fan. I got to call it for what it is. Even if Wilder beats him, I still don't think he is the best guy, best heavyweight until him and Anthony Joshua fight. So let me take that back. I would say Joshua is the number one heavyweight. Let's put it that way. He still would be number one in my book. But as far as being the best, we won't know until they both fight each other. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. They got to fight each other, and that way we can determine who's the best heavyweight in that division. But as far as rankings concerned, I don't think Deontay will be number one in my book. I think he'll be. I mean, again, I'm being honest. I think that, the reason why I'm going to edge it towards Joshua being number one still because, again, he has more titles and he's beaten more top 10 opponents than Wilder has. I mean, that's a fact. I can't distort that. That's an honest truth. So I can't lie about that. So, yeah. Mr. Doc says the ring and lineal was more closely associated in that Fleischer's day, weren't they, Dan? Yeah, they were. I mean, they were closely associated back then before Oscar De La Hoya and the Golden Boy bought it over. I mean, at the time, the Ring magazine title was kind of revered, was highly recognized as being the actual lineal championship back then with the Nat Fletcher days. But obviously, that's all changed. So Wawa says, so the fight's in November or December? It's in November 17th from what's being reported. December, there's another pay-per-view that Showtime's putting out. That's an Errol Spence and Mikey Garcia fight. I know the Texan had said that, hey, they should put Mikey Garcia and Errol Spence on that undercard. I would love to see that, but then Showtime's not going to put too many resources on that because that's too much money they're going to be putting into one card on the pay-per-view. I think they're going to split the two fights into two separate pay-per-views. The Wilder and Fury fight is going to be the first pay-per-view for Showtime in November, and then December will be Garcia versus Spence. That's the other pay-per-view. Let me see. Props to Fury for fully giving Wilder the well-deserved payday. I mean, look, they're both getting the payday. It ain't just Fury. I mean, Wilder and Fury both getting the payday. I'm more interested in the fight rather than the people's money. I agree, Mr. Doc. I really don't like to talk about. I really don't focus on their purses, whatnot, because at the end of the day, they're getting millions of dollars either way, far more money than any of us will ever see. you know. But the whole point is that look, you're getting paid, just entertain me, plain and simple. Let's see, nah, the Fury beats. Sexy P says nah. Fury beats Fury. He's better and more legit than AJ. Hey, I mean that debate, man. I'll bring a couple guys in here. We can all discuss that. Ross Clot says that who gives a shit about Wild Payday? We want to see good fights. Hey, I hear you. Let me see. Mr. Doc says beating Fury made Wilder the best heavyweight. That's a mini stock now, isn't it? Really? Well, I mean, look, that's Sexy P's opinion, Mr. Doc. But to me, again, I wouldn't say they're both would be the best. They won't be the best. No one's the best until they fight each other. Plain and simple. I will go by rate at that point, and I will stick to my guns. I would say that Joshua will slightly be the number one heavyweight over Wilder. Even if Wilder beats Fury, it'll be slightly better. And again, it'll be a little bit of, not better. I'm sorry, number one in my opinion at that point. And then until they fight each other, yes, that's where then we can determine who's the better fighter, who'd be the best heavyweight out of the two. That's if Joshua can get past Povetkin. Because if he loses to Povetkin, then Wilder will be the number one guy. He'll be the plain and simple. Steven's low play says that Stevenson. Ross Clyde. Oh, okay. He's got confidence in Fury. All right, we'll see. Fair enough. Russ Lowplay says that Stevenson and Gvozdyk in December 1st. Without that fight, Showtime is in bad shape for the end of the year. Yeah, they'll definitely have that fight on. I'm not, I'm very confident about Showtime. What's funny about that? Showtime has a very, 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 very good track record of keeping their fights on schedule. Yes, there are going to be some delays here and there, but they usually have a very good track record of keeping their fights as scheduled. So, yeah. All right, let's do it, Dan. All right, Mr. Dawes. G-Lex says, I would love to see Ortiz on the Wilder and Fury undercard. Hey, why not? Hell, get Ortiz and Dillian White on that undercard. Of course, Eddie Hearn may not go for it because Frank Warren, BT Sport would be all over that. I'm going to talk about that one in a second. So, hold on for a second, y'all. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. Guys, in, we'll chop it up. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Let me see. Low Play says that Low Play says that Spence and Garcia is a waste of time. So is Fury Wilder, but it's a better fight than Spence and Garcia. I mean, we don't know that. I mean, they're both good fights, man. Both good fights. I mean, those are damn good pay-per-view cards. I mean, as I pointed out, the United States have not seen a heavyweight headlining a pay-per-view since 2004. That's how long it's been. It's been on HBO, and that was Vitaly Klitschko versus Danny Williams. That's how bad boxing has been in America, especially in the heavyweight scene for a long time. It's been that dreadful. And now it's climbed back in the scene thanks to Deontay Wilder. Hey, he gets the headline. He's the first American heavyweight to headline a pay-per-view since Mike Tyson. No, not Mike Tyson. It says Evander Holyfield and James Toney. Or Evander Holyfield was the headliner against James Toney. That's since 2003. Damn, that's been 15 years. The first American heavyweight to headline the pay-per-view since 2003. Wow, that long. And I'm happy for the guy. Let's see how this, we're testing water, see how he can draw on pay-per-view. We'll see. The Texas says, Low Play says, if Povetkin beats AJ, he's the number one guy, in my opinion. Hey, it's an argument. Povetkin can make that argument right now. And not only he'll be the unified champion, he has an argument to be made. And look at his resume. The Texas says, I have a feeling that this AJ fight is already made behind the scenes, and we're getting the a Triple G Canelo style announcement after the Wilder and Fury. Hey, that's a possibility. That's a good possibility, Texan. Good possibility. Sexy P says that Fury's getting knocked out quick. He ain't ready for Wilder. He needs more tune-ups. Like I said, man, if he's ready, he's ready. Ross says anybody who beats AJ is number one. There's no brainer. I have to agree, Ross Clot. I ain't gonna lie to you. I have to agree. Then again, what if Fury beats Wilder? Fury could say, I got a well, as far as the resume comparison, maybe Fury says I may have an edge over the resume department because he was the man who beat Klitschko, who ended his reign and became the lineal champion. I got not only got Klitschko, then I got Wilder. Two big names in the heavyweight division. Two huge names. If Fury could argue, say, hey, I'm the number one guy. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. If Povetkin beats AJ, some may claim that he's more one win away of a Hall of Fame. He could be. That's possible. He could be. If Povetkin get AJ on his resume, then if he could get Wilder, then maybe Povetkin could get into a Hall of Fame if he get those two wins. He could. Povetkin ain't no damn fucking Hall of Fame fighter. Damn Ross Clock. Let's see. Yeah, the only thing that made up for the pay-per-view decline at heavyweight was this Floyd and this pro-Mexican fan base. Yeah, it was the little guys, the welterweights, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Tim Bradley, and Juan Manuel Marquez, Margarito, those guys, Mosley, Cotto, Judah, all those small guys that kind of took the attention away from the heavyweights. And, back in the U.S. boxing market, they're the ones who did that. And we had to, obviously we bear with that over the decade. And by the way, they all fought each other and they all had some good fights with each other. Ricky Hatton, credit to him. He helped kind of, helped to some degree. So it is what it is. Ross Clot says that I'm glad you said that since AJ doesn't get credit for beating old Vlad, you just played yourself. Wilder won't get credit either. Oh, okay. Hey, I do. I hope it's a great trilogy from that point, Dan. Hey, we'll see, man. We shall see. But anyways, let me get you guys in here. I know it's kind of late, but we'll chop it up real quickly. We'll chop it up. We'll get on this Frank Warren thing, okay? Because I heard Frank Warren had gave an interview with Boxing Social, and he indicated that if the fight between Wilder and Joshua was going to be signed to deliver, Sky Sports was not going to showcase the fight. Wow. That Sky Sports was not going to showcase the fight. BT Sport was going to showcase it. Why? Because BT Sport wanted to get involved in negotiations with Wilder and Joshua. They wanted to bid the fight over Sky Sports. Okay. Now, according to some sources or some reports, AJ is signed exclusively to Sky Sports, so that was not going to happen. Now, that could be a possibility, but I don't really buy that to an extent, and let me tell you why. You guys know me, and Mr. Doc, you know me very well. I like to point out history. I always use history as a reference to my arguments, to my points. If anybody knows that every fighter is going to sign some type of deal with a certain network, okay? Every fighter does that. Whether it's a 2-fight deal, whether it's a 3-fight deal, whether it's a 4-fight deal or 6-fight deal, or if it's a long-term deal. But the fact is that it does not stop them from fighting on other networks. We've seen this happen many times in the 90s, okay? Vander Holyfield was signed to Showtime. He fought on HBO against Lennox Lewis for the undisputed title twice. Mike Tyson was signed on Showtime. He fought Lennox Lewis in 2002 for the heavyweight title, okay? At that time, I'm going to get to this right now. That time, that fight was promoted as I think it was a pay-per-view where both Showtime and HBO were both promoting it, just how they both promoted, agreed to promote Mayweather and Pacquiao, okay? Now, to me, Sky Sports and BT Sport could have came together and said, okay, we'll both headline the pay-per-view, we'll split the revenue, but whoever is the winner of the fight of one of our fighters, if one of our fighters wins that fight, then we get to the exclusive rights to the exclusive residual royalty rights to that fight, meaning that network has a right to rebroadcast that fight however they see fit, which means they get the exclusive rights to the royalty money. It's similar to the deal how HBO Showtime did for Lewis and Tyson and the similar deal how they worked out for Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather. So they could have done that. Okay, I'm sure they could have done that deal. I'm sure, and in my opinion, they could have done again. Could have done that deal. I'm only speculating, but the fact is, I think Sky Sports did not want Joshua and Hearn to go along with that because it's all about money. It's all about control. They want the exclusive share of that pie. They don't want BT Sports involved in that. So many people are speculating that Frank Warren deliberately sabotaged that deal so that way he could get Fury and Wilder to fight so he could get the big piece of that pie. So, I mean, we can all speculate, but I mean, hey, it is what it is. Okay. So that's the situation on that. Now, yeah, let me get the guys in here real quickly. All right. Have fun. I'm stuck. Where's fucking low place at? Have fun. So, anyways, yeah. Mr. Doc says all the talent that you mentioned, Dan, and the sports still continue to decline is a sad thing. The only thing that slows down is they only slow things down. It seems like, yeah. I think what's frustrating is that fans get tired of getting fights at a time that they're not being delivered. It's always about stalling. It's all about trying to get advantage over one per fight over the other. Fans get tired of it. It's like, no, fuck that. Just get the fight done. We want to see the fight right then and now. But unfortunately, you know, again, fans are just tired. They just don't have the patience for that anymore. That's the reason why the sport's in decline because I'm not going to be what you call naive about this. It's always been a business, but it just seems to get worse now that boxing's been more of $1 trillion empire in my opinion. Somebody just who was it? Mr. Doc? How you doing, man?
How you doing, Dan?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm
good, man. I'm good. Good.
So my day's just now starting.
It's all good, man. Go ahead and play that guitar, man. Well, let me go through these. Yeah, let me go into this comments real quickly. He says that Ike from the UK. Shout out to Ike. He said, "Look, no way in hell that AJ's fighting on BT." I hear you, Ike, but again, let's not pretend that he cannot do it. It can be done. Many fighters have signed so-called quote-unquote exclusive deals on current networks, but they end up fighting on a rival network. They've all done it. Okay. So again, it's all about the network greed right here. Of course, this is one of the reasons what big fights get stalled because networks are trying to get advantage advantage of the other network, rival network. They want to keep the exclusive revenue to themselves or work out a deal, work out the percentage of the revenue so they can split it. All right. Similar to, again, I have to repeat, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, they had that same deal with Showtime HBO. All right. Holyfield, Mike Tyson and Lennox Lewis, same scenario. So BT and Sky Sports can work this out. They can. Believe me, they can. And Mr. Doc, let me go in here before I bring you back in a little bit. Let me.
Another thing is, I don't know this, but I imagine that the contracts nowadays are like phone book thick or close to it in a lot of cases, especially for fights.
Right.
You know, like the Manny Pacquiao Floyd fight. The way they talked about how they haggled and went over those things. I mean, those were probably, multiple hundreds of pages, the contracts for that.
Oh yeah. It probably took like days for the lawyers and the representatives to review those contracts too. And of course, the lawyers have to review it. And if they give it a thumbs up, then the managers got to review it. And then the managers review it and they give it a thumbs up, then they're good to go. Plain and simple. So like I said, this can be done, but of course, these things take time. It takes time to negotiate, and it takes time for on both sides to come together to agree. Especially when networks are trying to rival, they're trying to bid for a big fight like this. So Again, some people are going to accuse Franklin for deliberately trying to, for sabotaging that negotiation by getting
Of
BT
course.
Sport
See,
involved.
this is what the kind of thing I was getting at the other day when
Yeah,
I and a couple of times when I've stressed the point that look, any and every boxing promoter, and historically we both know examples. Don King's a great example of this. I've heard you bring it up, right?
yeah,
Any boxing promoter worth anything in Eddie Hearn's position is going to try and get a monopoly on the heavyweights. That's the
absolutely.
classic boxing promoter play. If you want, like, you know what I mean, to kind of dictate the sport, so to speak, and who's
Right.
making the most money, control the heavyweights. And everybody else is thinking the same way. How when they're trying to figure out their angle into it too, or how they can pry the fight away from Eddie or get their, not to mention, as soon as the 50 million thing got put out there, I
Uh,
get, I guarantee you, Eddie Hearn's phone exploded with all kinds of people wanting to help,
yes.
quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. They wanted to get answers on that situation. I think he was blindsided
Well,
by
I
that.
know I'm
So,
talking about just the fact that people hear 50 million and they start thinking about how they can get themselves a cut of that.
oh, absolutely. And again, people who keep saying that that's a illegitimate offer, how many times we have to go through this? Sky Sports head Adam Smith confirmed that offer to be real. He was verified. He verified it himself. So what? What's the problem here? Now, before
Yeah. So let's see. There's two things. It's like, again, we got to differentiate. It
yeah,
was the between the offer being actually made, right, and
right,
how realistic were the like nuts and bolts and mechanics of it. Because and I'm not saying I know whether it was or wasn't. I don't know what you know what I mean. What where it was going to necessitate the fight to take place and under what terms. You get what I mean? For all we know, so
right, right.
for example, the whole having the fight on BT, like I think you mentioned, clearly was not going to work out.
That was not going to happen. I mean, I think the reason why it
Well,
was not going to happen, yeah, yeah, I think what it is again, it goes back to the fact that these things like this take time. Sky Sports is not going. Wait, we're not going to sign off. There's no way we're going to lose that pot, that big $50 million pot. We need. Obviously, they may have went to Hearn and Joshua said, "You better not fight on BT Sport, otherwise we're going to have some legal issues." Again, I don't know if this had to do with the exclusivity rights. All I know is that I think Sky Sports is like, okay, if we're gonna make this done, we got to come back to the table. We're gonna have to take. It's gonna take
well,
time for the next to
let's
negotiate this.
let's both use our common sense here and just think about this simple basic fact, right? Look, we
Yeah,
think about how difficult it was when they did the HBO Showtime co-promotion for Pacquiao and Mayweather, right? It took them forever. Now think
right,
about them trying to
right,
coordinate Showtime, Sky, and BT.
right. I think
And
that's what
and
it
then
is. I
and
think
then,
that
and then, and then the zone might be squeezing its way into the picture too, and
right,
and like you said, I don't like to get into this crap either. But just we're talking about like the very basic components, and we don't even on this basic component surface, pretty kind of easy to see. You know what I mean? That's a clusterfuck waiting to happen.
right. Exactly, exactly. Let me look at the comment section here. It says that Keith says that we're making AJ look like he down $80 million. Well, I mean, regardless how you feel about the situation, he did turn it down. Plain and simple, he turned it down. Sorry, man. It's the way it is. There's no other way to do it. He turned down that offer. Derek Williams, what's going on? He said, salute to you, Dan. Eddie Hearn's plan backfired. AJ is on the outside looking in, and Wembley Stadium is still not sold out for AJ versus Vivek. Well, I mean, that's a good point. I wonder why that venue has not been sold out yet. It's been on the tickets been on sale for the last few weeks now. What's going on with that? They haven't even announced how many tickets they've sold so far. That's kind of strange. But anyways, I
That's the
mean, I guess
question.
that's another.
That'd be the question. It's like, well, how far from it are they? Like, I think Beach was saying the other day, it's like they sold like close to eighty
Well,
thousand tickets, which like okay, they didn't
well,
sell
that
out, but that's still a lot. That's still a lot of asses.
that's still a lot of tickets. Yeah, I heard that rumor too. But but the thing is that
I
typically, the
think
reason why people.
I think what the again I don't pay too close attention to this, but if I understand what I've heard about it correctly, the crux of the matter isn't actually whether or not they were selling out. It was the speed at which they were claiming they were selling out.
Right. Well, here's the thing.
That whole what's it called? StubHub?
Yeah,
Is it
StubHub's
StubHub?
couch.
Yeah.
Yeah, StubHub. Yeah, the
Yeah.
problem with it,
It
Frank, and
wasn't.
Frank.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I listened to a couple of different videos on it very carefully, and yeah, the words were chosen carefully. They weren't saying that they didn't sell the fights out. They just were saying they totally didn't sell them out in like 5 minutes. They were claiming,
Well,
which
this is
makes
what I
sense
was
to me.
gonna. Yeah, that's where I was getting to because this whole narrative, this whole propagate, I would say the word propaganda, but this whole narrative is that AJ is such a big, huge draw. He sells out in seconds. He sells out in
Well,
minutes.
yeah, and
And,
to me, it's like that's kind of silly because I mean, fuck, I don't care if it takes until the day of the fight to sell out 90,000 seats. That's friggin' impressive today in boxing.
right.
So it's almost,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? It's one of those unnecessary lies, if you get me.
Exactly. And the thing is too is that I think one of the uploaders brought this up. It was a good opinion. I forgot who it was, but perhaps the reason why AJ and Vivek fight hasn't sold out is because you have to understand the casuals do outnumber the hardcores. Okay, when it comes to the fan base, and they don't. All right, if they're not getting a good their money's worth, they're not going to tune into their product again. Plain and simple. And AJ's last two
Casual fans
fights,
also tend to
yeah,
be the ones that buy the latest tickets, and you know what I mean. I mean, at the latest times and more last minute. The hardcore fans are going to be, you know what I mean.
so
They're more likely to be there,
right,
go on sale.
right. And the thing is too, I was going to say the reason why is that his last two fights, his performances has been very questionable. We all know that last Joseph Parker fight was terrible. I hate to say it, it was a terrible fight. I can't lie about that. It was just a lackluster fight, and the fight before that, the Taco fight, was a questionable performance. So they're kind
I
of
think
like,
it's I think it's a combination of those two fights, not being the most, fantastic, exciting fights ever. I don't think they were. I've seen far worse though, but
oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen far worse fights too,
they're
but
also following in the shadow of the AJ Vlad fight. Okay, you know what I mean? It
right,
kind of set the bar a bit high for him. You might say.
right, and
So it
exactly. I mean,
becomes the
yeah.
expectation.
Here's the thing. Right, Anthony Joshua is promoted as a KO king, right? That's how he's being promoted. And let's be real, Anthony Joshua, ever since he stepped up to world level, he doesn't really. I mean, he hasn't really. I mean, he does knock guys out, but he hasn't really knocked them out with one punch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's got a little
and I've
tougher on
always
world
viewed
level.
him as more of a, and I'm using this comparison definitely as a very huge hyperbole. Right? So don't flip out on
Yeah,
me, but he's more a Joe Louis type than
right.
a knockout artist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Ikea in the comment section.
Comparative to his contemporaries, he's more the technician of the guys that are in their prime.
Yeah.
In my
That's a good point. Yeah, he's definitely a very good tactician, textbook fighter. Is very good.
yeah. There you go. You use the word textbook. That's what I'm saying. Textbook.
Yeah, textbook. IKEA, the comment section says that StubHub has closed their secondary market. It has nothing to do with the last two fights, Dan. Well, IKEA, to tell you the truth, it's a combination. It's a combination of his performances, his last two performances in Cardiff. It also has something to do with the fact that Hearn and Joshua makes most of their revenue off the secondary market of the tickets. And StubHub is not the one that closed it. They're the ones who handled the secondary market. What happened was is that O2 and Wembley, the companies that owns the stadiums, O2 Arena and Arena and Stadium, they banned StubHub. They banned them because they wanted to crack down on the secondary markets. They're not allowing that in the UK anymore. That's what's going on.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
affected those 2 minute sellouts and all that.
yeah, that affected Joshua and her, and that's why now
Because
I'm
if correct me if I'm wrong here, Dan, I think what it was is basically StubHub would buy them all up in 2 minutes, and then StubHub would sell them
yeah,
because people buy online through StubHub so much, anyways.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And the thing is too, yeah,
It's kind of a tricky one. You see what I mean? I can understand why people have maybe gotten a little confused about what it was about. You know what I mean? It wasn't ever
yeah.
about them actually selling out or not selling out. It was the speed at which they were selling out, making out like he was the Beatles.
Yeah, or it was Michael Jackson or something.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is what it is. All right, man. So let me see. George Cotton. Oh, what's up, Hop? Mr. Hop says that, hey, today at Doc Ross Cotton Low Place. Coach, not Coach, I'm sorry. George Cotton says that all I know is if Wilder's paydays are less than $50 million is a slave wage. Remember that shit? Hey, well, I mean, I heard he's getting $15 million for this fight plus revenue, man. IQ says that BT and Sky Sports are enemies in all sports, football and boxing. All right, fair enough. Just like HBO. George Cotton says $5,000. Wilder Fury doesn't happen. Any takers? I'm not sure you want to do that, Cotton, because that fight's already been made. It's officially announced. It's done. Unless you're betting it's going to be canceled. I mean, hey, I don't know. You want to bet him on that, Mr. Doc?
Just as an aside, this isn't even directed at you, just particularly George Cotton. I'm sorry. What is these people like trying to throw around $5,000 on YouTube? I
don't know.
I maybe it's an age thing. I just find it a little strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. People just trying to one up on each other. Talking about it's kind of like to me, it's like, okay, it's your move. Make the first move. You know what I mean? It's calling somebody each other's bluff.
You know what it is, Dan? I grew up with that whole. Do you know what we could do with that money? Or you know what we could do with fill in the blank, whatever amount of money you're talking about. I grew up with that.
Yeah.
That constantly. So now my brain kind of reflexively, anytime I see $5,000 on the screen, immediately my brain starts running through the different things I could do with $5,000.
Yeah, man. I don't imagine what I can do.
Throw it away on YouTube on a YouTube bed. It's like, I can find better things to do.
I hear you, man. But I don't know. It's all about trying to, up on one another. That's what this is about. So, look, anybody about this too is like everybody who don't like this Wilder and Fury fight are hoping, praying that it doesn't happen, so they can,
right. He sounds right. I don't understand, Dan. I don't understand. Thank you for helping me with that.
Oh, these style the chat. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. It's like now everybody is praying that these people who don't like this is kind of remembers of Warded Kovalev. Remember that situation, the first fight, the second fight, lead up to it? People who didn't like Andre Ward were hoping he was going to pull out of the fight. At first they said, oh, he's not going to sign on to it. He signed on to the fight. Oh, watch, he's going to pull an injury. He's going to pull out. He did pull out. They still didn't want to give the man the credit for taking that fight, man. It's like, what the fuck? This is the same situation with Wilder, the same thing with Fury.
George got all about his 5 racks, man. He's on it.
Hey, George, I tell you what, you go bet somebody else 5 racks, man. You can't do that here, man. I mean, Jesus Christ. Again, this is all a double standard. Let's flip the script, man. If Anthony Joshua was going to take that fight, trust me, none of them would have been arguing about that because, look, they would all say, hey, Fury already got 2 tune-ups, so why not? He's already a world-level fighter. That's what they'll be saying. In fact, that Eddie Hearn wanted that man to get into the fight before the Joshua fight. He wanted him to fight Bellion. He wanted him to fight Dillian White before he fight Joshua. That was a 3-fight deal. Like, what the fuck? Seriously? Hearn wanted to put that man in the gauntlet. So I was like, whoa, okay. All right, he wanted to put him in the fire, but it is what it is, man. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people are praying this fight doesn't happen.
George Cotton does have a good point that Tyson Fury has pulled out of a tremendous number of fights, to my understanding.
Yes, he has pulled out of fights. He's pulled out of the Alexander Ustinov fight, and he pulled out of obviously the Klitschko rematch. We all know how that happened and how that went down. He pulled out of the David Price fight for the British title, heavyweight title. So, I mean, how many fights is that? 3-4 fights right there.
And if we wanted to be really rough, we could say it runs in the family. He's pulled out of his chair too.
Yeah, Fury's pulled out a lot of fights too. Exactly. So George Cotton says, hey, 2 fighters that's pulled out more fights than Fury. Let me see. David Hay. He pulled out. He's notoriously pulled out of so many fights. Who's the other fighter? There's many other fighters that pulled out way more than Fury has.
Roberto Garcia.
Yeah, Roberto Garcia. Yep. So that guy's pulled out a lot of fights. So I mean, come on, man. There you go. Two fighters right there: Roberto Garcia and David A.
But he does have
All
a
right.
point. He does have a point.
Yeah,
There is a high pullout rate, there.
that's true. And to be fair though, Andre Ward had pulled out a couple fights too. They were running on that. That was another thing. They were praying that he would pull out against
Oh
Kovalev.
God, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. You told me
Yeah,
a great video about that. About how Ward was a coward. He was going to pull out of the fight because he was so scared of Kovalev.
yeah. I mean, that man signed on to the fight. He moved up in weight, and they didn't want to give him credit. I mean, that's just how bad that situation. Just the same thing with this situation. Well, it's almost similar, you know. D Style says, "Yeah, Kodo, people gotta, yeah, Cotton, people gotta bet." He talked about George Cotton. He said, "Yeah, Cotton, people going to bet a faceless dude, South picture of a Fox News commentator with 2 subs and no vids." Oh damn. Oh damn.
That's why Fury has no kids.
Yeah, that's why Fury ain't got no kids. These dudes is crazy, man. Hey, anyways, what do you think about Shannon Briggs' comments, man? I mean, honestly, I think Shannon is trying to, in my opinion, I think he's trying to sabotage that fight because he wanted to fight Fury. And Shannon wanted to get that payday. What do you think?
Oh, he's definitely trying to at least get some rub off the situation, if nothing else. Although, at first I was like, I was a bit surprised that when you told me he was banned, and my first thought was, what? My people banned Shannon Briggs? What the fuck? And then you said it fish eyes, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, Frank Warren. Yeah, him. Yeah, he and Shannon Briggs are at odds right now because it was a deal they were supposed to sign. Briggs refused, and it was a bad. The negotiation turned out to be a bad fallout between the two. And in fish eyes, Frank Warren, he's a very vindictive guy. If you cross him,
I was about to say it always. Beats educated me about it. I asked him. He said it always ends badly with Frank.
Always said badly. I mean, let me tell you something about Frank Warren. This dude has done some shady, ruthless business deals with fighters to the point that this man almost got killed. We all know that Terry Marsh story.
Yeah, apparently he loves himself some litigation. Like he sues the shit out of everybody and doesn't miss a court date. You know what I mean?
He always wins because he look. Frank is a smart guy. He knows these fighters ain't got the resources to fight him in court. I mean, he'll take him to court. He's got the resources. He's got limited resources. He's like, look, I'll spend more money than whatever you got in your lifetime to get
to. He's got the time to show up at all the court dates.
No, and if they don't show up, he wins the case. So he knows it. He knows that they don't have time to show up. They don't have the resources. When he sues them, he's like, okay, let's work out a settlement. Plain and simple. Didn't Ricky Burns sue Frank Warren? Did he ultimately win that case?
Pretty sure everybody that leaves Frank Warren tries to sue.
Yeah.
And if they don't sue him, he sues them.
Yeah, he says, George Cotton says, yeah, you could Google me. I'm still counting all money from fighters. Get the fuck out of here. Talking to D-Style. Speaking of pulling out, I hope Saunders and Andrade really expires in October. Oh, yeah, Billy Joe Saunders is known to pull out for numerous fights as well. So he's another guy.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah, let's hope he goes with it. I think he will. But I think Fury will go with the Wilder fight as well. I think I don't know why people are praying. I mean, there's people are betting that this fight's not going to go through. They're praying it doesn't go through. I'm like, Jesus Christ, why? Why?
Yeah,
Is it interesting?
That's the part I don't get either.
I'm scratching my head. I'm trying to figure out what is wrong. I mean, no disrespect to people, man. What is wrong with these people's logical thinking, man? I'm like, Jesus Christ. Too bad, guys.
Like I was saying, it's like they want boxing to continue to decline and fail as a sport, just for the sake of what the fuck ever.
Millennial Championship. They don't want him to get another name. This is what this is about. Bottom line, they don't want him to get any type of leverage at the negotiation table with Joshua. He says, "Yeah, I think George Cotton is the dude from that white."
You should see if Giselle wants to jump on, man.
Yeah, let me ask him if he wants to jump on, man. I know he wants to jump on. He got to talk about this. Let me get him on. I'm gonna send him a link right now.
Was Kovalev the end of the White Murderers row? Is that the last of them?
He was the last one. I think Golovkin is the only one, and Lomachenko are the
Oh
only ones left out
yeah.
here.
Golovkin and Lomachenko, they're the last ones.
Man, Lomachenko already lost, man. I mean, Jesus Christ. I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
he's
know,
still in the
I
white
know, I
murders for
know,
this.
I know.
He already lost. He lost to a C plus fighter or B minus fighter, Orlando Salido. Okay, a man who was past his prime, way past it. Lost to that guy. So, a lot of people don't want to ignore the fact that he lost that fight. Okay, plain and simple. It's a loss on his record.
No, they
You
want to
know,
say, "Oh, he fought dirty. They should have disqualified him. That was the dirtiest fight I've ever seen."
who gives a fuck? Who cares? It's a
No,
fight, man. You
last
deal
part,
with it.
the last part is the key for me. Dirtiest fight I've ever seen. It's like right then,
Dirtiest,
right then
dirtiest fight you ever seen.
yeah. When they say something like that, you know they're a new-ish fan.
Oh man! First of all, whoever says that don't even know who Sandy Sadler was. All right, you want to talk about the dirtiest fighters in the game? Take a look at that
Yeah,
guy.
that's what I'm saying.
The
Yeah,
way, the
Fritzy
way,
Zimich is like
way
laughing
he
in his
fought Willie.
grave.
Oh yeah, Fritzy Sick, the mysterious Billy Smith. Yeah, I mean, come on, those guys, man, those are the most dirtiest fighters in the game, and they end up in the Hall of Fame. What does that tell you? They end up in the Hall of Fame. All right, so man, these dudes, dirtiest fighter I ever seen. Get out of here with that. They used to call Andre Ward the most dirtiest fighter I ever seen. Them dudes don't know what the hell they talking about. You know? Let's see. Let me get these stuff up here. Send them. Yep. Oh, all right. So, anyways, yeah, Shannon the Cannon, man. Yeah, what style gets on, I will probably just wrap it up and give his thoughts on this. All I gotta say is that everybody is just angry. I mean, come on, man. Let's just appreciate the fact that this fight's happening. It's good for the sport. Whether you believe Tyson Fury is not ready, if you feel he's not in top form, it's still an interesting fight on paper. It's still a good fight on paper. It does good for the sport, especially for the heavyweight division. It's good. It definitely needs it. You know, Triple G. George Cott says, "How many people besides me ever negotiated a fight for a world champion?"
Oh God! Okay. All right,
Here
all
we
right.
go.
You're
Come on.
officially a clown. You are a clown. Why in the fuck would you be? If that's true, you being here makes you even more of a clown. What are you doing here? If that's the
Now
truth?
George is
Stop it!
okay.
Stop it, George.
George is just kind of making some bizarre comments. It's all good. Ike says not.
George had one too many.
Let me see. Ike says it's not level playing ground. I mean, Wilder versus a vulnerable man in Fury. Well, Ike, with all due respect, I mean, let's put it this way:
The
Did
coat.
Anthony? Wait, hold on, real quickly, Mr. Doc. Did Anthony Joshua fight Vladimir Klitschko coming off a 2-year layoff and a loss? Isn't that kind of to a certain same as is that almost similar in a way where he fought a man who hasn't fought in 2 years? Yes, he was still in shape, but the fact is he wasn't in the ring for 2 years. He was coming off a loss. So in fact, Joshua had the advantages of that fight. He was a favorite to win it.
True,
So,
Dan, but that we got to be realistic here. The one counter to that is we all know that Vlad was living a very clean, you know what I mean, lifestyle, and
that's true. I will say that. That's why I said that it's somewhat similar. I didn't say it was all. It was very. It was 100% identical. What I'm saying is that many fighters get criticized. Fighters who are coming off the loss, who's out of the ring for such a long period of time, and then when that fighter beats them, they don't get much credit for that. They call that fighter very vulnerable. So kind of like Jack Johnson over the years never got credit for beating Jim Jeffries. A guy been out of the ring for a long time, came back and they called him the Great White Hope, and he got destroyed by Jack Johnson. At that time, nobody wanted to give Johnson credit for that win. So it's like, come on, man. Look, I understand. Again, this is Fury's decision. Wilder didn't make that decision. This is Fury's decision. If he wants to go through the fight, that's him, man.
yeah.
And it's simple.
And hopefully, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Fury's, more than ready. It's just like the Mikey Errol Spence thing. You know what I mean? I don't understand people wanting to get in the way of that fucking fight either. You know what I mean? Do I think Mikey's going to get smashed too? Yeah, but I'm not going to get in the way of him trying to prove that he's that great. Right?
Yeah, let Mikey do it, man.
If he beats Spence, he's going to get max credit from me.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to crap on Spence if he does smash Mikey. That's what he's supposed to do. You know,
Yeah. Right.
and I phrased it really terribly the other day when I was asking you this. What I was trying to ask was when in fights where one fighter's moving up, right, from a lower weight
Yeah.
class to fight a really good fighter at that weight class, historically, more often than not, the bigger fighter wins. Is my suspicion.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a good point, Mr. Doc. That's a
Yeah,
very good
it's
point.
like it's not like it's a new modern phenomenon. Yeah, they've always failed most of the time. That's why guys like Roberto Duran and Sam Langford are extra, extra, extra great.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's absolutely a great point there. You know, uh, D Style says he can't come on because he's honestly he's gonna get yelled at if he comes on. It's all good.
Yeah, mom's
Hey,
not
Mike.
happy, nobody happy.
Yeah. So Mike Alvarado TBE. Okay, Mike. He says which boxing fight will be the most spot pay per view this year? Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Canelo Alvarez, Triple G, or KSI versus Logan Paul?
The YouTube one.
The YouTube
In
one.
America,
Yep.
it'll be the YouTube one. Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't gonna deny that. Logan Paul versus KSI is gonna be the most bought pay per view this year boxing match, even though those guys are not even real fighters. It is sadly it's a
Yeah,
fact.
finally, it's manifesting what I've been trying to tell people for years about boxing in America.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all about spectacles and like gang loads of shit talk and you know what I
yeah,
mean, that kind of thing.
yeah. Now the debate has been popped up in the chat, Mr. Doc, about the dirtiest fighter ever. Hop says that Louis Resto. That's a good point. We all remember about Louis Resto about that infamous fight he had with Billy Collins Jr., where he had no paddings in his glove, where he destroyed the man's face and ruined his career. You
Oh,
know?
the guy drove home and wrecked and died.
Yeah.
Yep,
Well,
yep.
well.
Was Panama Lewis involved in that?
Oh yeah, he was heavily involved in that. That was the same dude
Yeah,
involved in that.
yeah.
Yeah, he was no, he was a dirty, he was a shady ass trainer.
The
This
one
dude
I
was giving
mixed.
air.
Yeah, the one I
Yeah,
mixed.
yeah. Give me that bottle. No, not the one I mixed. Aaron Pryor got some what? Stimulants, some breathing stimulants, so that way he gets more energy against gain his
Possibly.
energy against Alexa
Yeah.
Aguirre. Yeah, okay.
A bit like the Leon Spinks brown bottle.
Yeah. True. Well, it is what it is. Let me see. Coach is in the chat. What's going on, Coach? Coach Shannon Harris is in the chat.
Ooh,
Uh,
I like Michael Wilson's entry, Asubio Pedroza.
oh yeah,
Overlooked,
that guy.
underrated fighter, man. Had a hell of a lengthy run at featherweight, didn't he? Before
Yeah,
he
he was a
lost to
featherweight.
McGuigan,
Yeah,
didn't
he
he
was a.
hold that WBA for a long time?
Yeah, he held it for like what? How many years he held that title? He's held it for 8 years, I believe. He's held it for a very long time. Very long time.
Yeah, excellent back foot fighter. Excellent back foot fighter. But also, yes, definitely could be very dirty, man. He them low blows.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, hell, Agapito Sanchez, God rest his soul, a extremely dirty fighter. That dude used to get disqualifying fights. You know, Agapito Sanchez.
Is that one of the dudes that had one of them clusterfuck fights with Manny?
Yeah, that was a
He
unification
had like
bout.
one or two fights. He had one or two fights I can recall that ended like in DQs or crap like that, bad headbutts or
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. He had a reputation of being a very, very, very rugged and dirty fighter. Very bad reputation. He didn't give a fuck. He'll bend the rules and act like he's innocent. He's just known to do it. You know, you know. Low blowing guys, headbutting guys, twisting their arms. He was known to do shit like that. I mean, God rest his soul, but it is what it is.
There
Ike
we go.
says that Clint.
Michael Wilson found it. 7 years, man. 78 to 85.
Oh yeah, I was about right. Almost 8 years, so 7 years, so 8 years.
That's a long run at featherweight, especially back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. But let me see what else we got here. Aki says, look, Klitschko was super fit and he was super ready 2 times to fight Fury before Fury pulled out, and then AJ 6 months later. So Klitschko had 3 training camps. Well, that is a good point. That's still a good point. But at the same time, even though you had training camps, you still got to go through sparring sessions. You haven't been in the ring for almost 2 years in a prize fight, so that would take a toll on you. That would slow you down. So let's still put that in proper context. All right. So let me see. D Style says opinion on Giuliani saying truth isn't true. Well, Rudy Giuliani is a pathological liar at this moment. He has no credibility.
Truth isn't truth.
Yeah. Let me see.
It gets better every day.
Yeah, let me see. Mr. Doc Hop says that, hey, I agree with you, Mr. Doc. I agree. The one thing that made Manny Pacquiao's KO win over Hatton so impressive is that Hatton was a naturally bigger guy. Same with Margarito. Oh, yeah. So Antonio Margarito could be classified as one of the most dirtiest fighters out there, especially with the hand wraps controversy. Uh,
Well, even before that, though, he was a fantastic villain.
oh, yeah. Everybody hated that dude.
He embraced the black hat like nobody's business. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He was hated.
Yep,
He didn't care. He was hated.
He loved it. He wanted to. He wanted to be. You know what I mean? He loved it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he did. Let me see. Mike from Pound for Pound Boxing Report says that, but Billy Resto's situation was just much as Panama Lewis is. Let me see. He said, but he said the Collins and Resto situation was just as much as Panama Lewis, as much as Resto. Pedraza was dirty for years on. Okay, so what Mike is probably pointing out that's just one instances with Louis Resto. Pedraza had a history of being a dirty fighter. That's what he's saying. He's had years of being, had that reputation. As far as Resto, that was one incident. I get that, Mike. But the fact is that Resto nearly killed the man in the ring. He badly damaged him. It ruined his life, ruined his career. So
that knew his death, didn't it?
Yeah, because he could have potentially died, and that's why Louis Resto and Panama Lewis had to do. I think they both went to prison for that. Louis Resto did some time, I know that, and so did Panama Lewis. He went to prison, and then when he got out, he lost his license as a trader. He couldn't go back. He couldn't trade again. He could do some consultations, but the man couldn't. They banned him from coming back to the ring.
He has to stay in the locker room.
Yeah, he has to stay in the locker room, so he can't even come back to the ring again. So major differences there. I mean, Resto, yeah, I understand Pedraza had years of being a dirty fighter, but Resto nearly killed the guy. Nearly killed him. So that's nothing. So Pedraza's situation is nothing compared to Resto. What he did to Collins, nothing. So Michael Maidana was a dirty fighter. I mean, they're all dirty fighters, but as far as who's the most dirtiest, I mean, that's up for debate. I get that. So
at least we finally gotten past that time after the Ward Kovalev fight when we'd have to deal with like 15 people in the comment section insisting Ward is the dirtiest fighter ever.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, I laugh when people say that. Lopez, that's why I wish his ass was on here. He talking about Ward is one of the most dirtiest fighters of all time. Like, yeah, get out of here. Get out of here with that. So anyway, how do you feel the fact that Deontay Wilder is the first American to headline a U.S. pay-per-view since Vander Holyfield? How do you feel about that?
That's good. It's good that it's happening then. It's a heavyweight, American heavyweight hasn't done it in that long. It's fun.
You know how long ago that was, man? Take a guess.
You said like early 2000s, 2002, 2004?
2003. 15 years. 15 years.
And speaking of fighters moving up, that was another exception to the rule that night. Tony put on a friggin' clinic on Evander.
I know Tony beat the crap out of Evander, man. I was so sad to watch that fight. It pained me to watch that,
But that's an example of another super exception to the rule of a fighter that could handle himself against much bigger fighters.
Right. True, man. But it is what it is, man. That's how things are.
Most of the time, they get beat up like Jose Napoli. But that's the price of trying to be great. That's always been the price of daring to be great.
True. Absolutely. But yikes. Yeah, that was. Yeah, so Evander Holyfield was the last American to headline a pay-per-view, and that was 2003. American heavyweight, that is. Actually, am I right? Am I wrong here? It could have been. Yeah, I was right. Yeah, Evander Holyfield was the last one. Damn, 15 years. Jesus Christ. Actually, wait a minute. Hold on. I could be wrong here. Was there Austin Rottman the last guy did it?
These styles saying Tyson did one in 2005.
Against who? Cliff Etty? No, that was no Kevin McBride. Yeah, he's right. He's right. It probably was Mike Tyson. No. I'm looking at the
Well,
roster
and
right now.
also, I mean, heck,
It's
you gotta
actually
remember, like almost everything Tyson did was pay per view. Fucking Peter McNeely was pay per view.
that's true. Well, Tyson and McBride fight did 250,000 buys, and that was a wow. That was a journeyman fight right there, and that did over 250,000 buys. I'm like, whoa, really? And Tyson was at the end of his career, he still drew that much. Okay, even though it's not much back then, but still. Oh, the last pay per view fight that American headline was I seen Rockman versus Oleg Moskeyev. That only did 60,000 buys. That was HBO. So that's 2 years ago. So Hoxie Rockman was the last fighter to do it. So my bad, y'all. He got knocked out. Fight. He got knocked the rope, I believe.
I was gonna say that had to be a terrible version of freaking Rockwell.
Yeah, Rockman was the last fighter to do it. That was 2006. Okay, so it's been 12 years since we had an American heavyweight headline pay per view. 12 years. So now, yep. So now we're gonna get that. We're gonna get that. What you call it? That fight. We're gonna get that Wilder versus Fury pay per view. So I'll see. I mean, man, Deontay Wilder. Let's see how he does, man. I hope the brother does draw very well, man.
Yeah. Another thing that this is one of those. This falls in the category of not necessarily being happy about being right. I did also point out a long time ago that in boxing terms, America's while it's in a friggin' state of shambles, basically in terms of boxing, it's still a sleeping giant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it still is. It
And
still is.
I remember saying several times that at some point, American sports fans are going to look up and notice that, hey, wait a minute, when did the UK? When did they grab the knife when it comes to this boxing thing? When did that happen? And they're not
I
going to be
know,
happy about
man.
it. And that's starting to kind of happen, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though. You remember the time I brought this up? I said, "Hey, look, man. After Wilder beat Ortiz, which did some very good numbers on Showtime regular broadcast, I said, you know what? It did some good numbers. They almost had a near sold out crowd. So over at Barclays,
Excellent fight,
so
too. Excellent fight.
excellent fight,
One for the
excellent
books, you
fight.
know?
Yeah, it was excellent fight. It ended with a knockout, a very emphatic knockout. So I was like, you know what? I remember this on the same guy. I said, you know what? I think we need to take Deontay Wilder to the pay per view route and see how well he can draw. I'm not saying he'll be a big. I'm saying let's just test the waters. His popularity has grown. He's starting to be recognized now. So let's see if he's starting to have a following. So let's see where it goes. Let's test the waters on it. But I will say this though, they better have a very good undercard. And the Texan brought this up too. I thought he said, you know what? If that pay per view could do at least 300,000 buys, then maybe you need to put Spencer Garcia on that undercard, which would be great. But that's not going to happen. That's going to be a separate pay per view. That pay per view is going to be in December. Spencer Garcia. So
I'll
if it,
separate that money, man.
yeah, I think what they need to do is they could put Adrian Broner on that undercard against Sergey Lipinets. Put him on that undercard. Put that fight on the undercard.
That's a good undercard fight. That's a good undercard.
Yeah, that's a very good undercard fight. Put Adrian Broner and Sergey Lipinets on their card because they are discussing that fight. And also put Leo Sanders versus Gary Russell Jr. for the unification featherweight title on that undercard. I think if you put those two on there, it'll probably do pretty well.
Yeah. Don't put Tank versus friggin'
I think it will. So, I mean, that's just... or take Davis Alvarez. Yeah, there you go. 3 fights right there on the Wilder and Fury undercard.
What's this? These titles talking about Rousey running women's title? What?
Won the WWE title tonight against Alexa Bliss. It was a squash match.
Oh, winning, he means? I see.
Yeah, she won the women's title, which I haven't seen. Yeah,
can she work worth a shit?
Happen, but it is wrestle. She can wrestle. She's very good. I ain't gonna lie. She can wrestle, man. She can wrestle.
Not as stiff as anything, but yeah, well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, Mr. Doc, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. I'm gonna have to do this a lot earlier, man. But thank you for coming on and joining me.
Yeah, I can dig it.
So I promise. I can dig it. So everybody else, thank you for coming up in the chat. D-Style as always. Hop, the Texan. Ike, as always, a UK subscriber of mine. George Cotton, UK subscriber is mine. The Texan, as always, a pleasure, man. Ross Clot 222. Sexy P. Wawa. All right, play that guitar, Mr. Doc. Mike for Pound for Pound Boxing Report. The boxing is me. What up, man? All right, y'all. That's the outro music right there. Kiwi Box as always, brother. So, anyways, guys, we are out. Peace.